Now I will do my reading practice. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Superhero. Platoon assignments last for 2 years, and by the end of 4 deployment, most of the guys were ready for a breather before tackling their next platoon, which, judging by the wars we were involved in, were almost guaranteed to take them into combat. I did not want I did not want or need a break because the uncommon among uncommon don't take breaks. Because the uncommon among uncommon don't need breaks. After my first evaluation, I started studying the other branches in the military, Coast Guard not included, and read up on their special forces. Navy SEALs like to think that we are the best of them all, but I wanted to see for myself. I suspected all the branches employed a few individuals who stood out in the worst environments. I was on a hunt to find and train with those guys because I knew they could make me better. Plus, I would read that Army Ranger School was known as one of the best, if not the best, leadership schools in the entire military. So, during my first platoon, I put 7 chits in with my OIC, hoping to get approval to go to Army Ranger School between deployments. I wanted to sponge more knowledge. I told him and become more skilled as a special operator. Chits are special requests, and my first six were ignored. I was a new guy after all, and some thought my focus should remain within naval special warfare rather than stray into the dreaded army. But I had earned my own reputation after serving 2 years in my first platoon, and my seventh request went up the ladder to the CO in charge of SEAL Team 5 when he signed off. I was in. Goggins, my OIC, said after giving me the good news, "You are the type of motherfucker who wishes you were a POW just to see if you have what it takes." So last, he was on to me. He knew the kind of person I was becoming, the type of man willing to challenge myself to the nth degree. We shook hands. The OIC was off to Devguru, and there was a chance we would meet there soon. He told me that with two ongoing wars for the first time, Debru has opened their recruitment process to include guys of their first platoon. By always searching for more and preparing my mind and body for opportunities that didn't yet exist, I was one of a handful of men on the West Coast approval by SEAL Team 5 brass to screen for Green Team, the training program for Devguru just before I left for Army Ranger School. The Green Team screening process unfolds over 2 days. The first day is the physical fitness portion, which included a 3 mile run, a 1200-meter swim, 3 minutes of sit ups and push ups, and a max set of pull ups. I smoked everybody because my first platoon had made me a much stronger swimmer and a better runner. Day 2 was the interview, which was more like an interrogation. Only 3 men from my screening class of 18 guys were approved by the for green team. I was one of them, which theoretically meant that after my second platoon, I would be one step closer to joining Dev Group. I could hardly wait. It was December 2003, and as imagined, my special forces career was zooming into hyperspace because I kept proving myself to be the best, to be the most uncommon of motherfuckers, and remained on track to become the one warrior. A few weeks later, I arrived in Fort Benning, Georgia for Army Ranger School. It was early December, and as the only Navy guy in a class of 308 men, I was greeted with skepticism by the instructors because a few classes before mine, a couple of Navy SEALs quit in the middle of training. Back then, they used to send Navy SEALs to Ranger School as punishment, so they may not have been the best representatives. I had been begging to go, but the instructors didn't know that yet. They thought I was just another cocky special ops guy. Within hours, they stripped me and everyone else of our uniforms and reputations until we all looked the same. Officers lost rank and minted special forces warriors like me became nobodies with a hell of a lot to prove. On day one, we were split into three companies, and I was appointed first sergeant in command of Bravo Company. I got the job I got the job because the original first sergeant had been asked to recite the Ranger's creed after a beat down on the pull-up bar, and he was so tired he fucked it up. To Rangers, their creed is everything. Our Ranger instructor was livid as he took stock of Bravo Company. All of us looked at attention. I don't know where you think you men are, but if you expect to become Rangers, then I expect you to know our creed. His eyes found me. I know for a fact Old Navy here doesn't know the Ranger Creed. I had been studying it for months and could have recited it while standing on my head. For effect, I cleared my throat and get loud. Recognizing that I volunteered as a ranger, fully knowing the hazards of my chosen profession, I will always endeavor to uphold the prestige, honor, and high spirited decorum of the rangers. Very surprised, he tried to cut me off, but I wasn't done. Acknowledging the fact that a ranger is a more elite soldier who arrives at the cutting edge of battle by land, sea, or air, I accept the fact that as a ranger my country expects me to move further, faster, and fight harder than any other soldier. The RI nodded with a smile, but this time stayed out of my way. Never shall I fail my comrades. I will always keep myself mentally alert, physically strong, and morally straight, and I will shoulder more than my share of the task, whatever it may be, 100% and then some. Gallantly will I show the world that I am a specially selected and well-trained soldier. My courtesy to superior officers, neatness of dress and care of equipment shall set the example for others to follow. Energetically will I meet the enemies of my country. I shall defeat them on the field of battle, for I am better trained and will fight with all my might. Surrender is not a ranger word. I will never leave a fallen comrade to fall into the hands of the enemy, and under no circumstances will I ever embarrass my country. Readily will I display the intestinal fortitude required to fight on to the ranger objective and complete the mission. Though I be the lone survivor, rangers lead the way. I recited all six stanzas, and afterwards he shook his head in disbelief and mulled the idea way to get the last laugh. Congratulations, Goggins, he said. You are now first sergeant. He left me there in front of my platoon speechless. It was now my job to march our platoon around and make sure every man was prepared for whatever lay in front of us. I became part boss, part big brother, and full time cozy instructor in Ranger School. It's hard enough to get yourself squared away enough to graduate. Now I had to look after 100 men and make sure they had their shit together too. plus, plus, I still had to go through the same evolutions as everyone else, but that was the easy part and actually gave me a chance to chill out. For me, the physical punishment was more than manageable, but the way I went about accomplishing those physical tasks had shifted. In birds, I would always lead my boat crews, often with tough love, but in general, I didn't care how the guys in the other boat crews were doing. For if they quit, this time I was not just putting out, I was also looking after everybody. So I saw someone having trouble with navigation, patrolling, keeping up on a run, or staying awake all night. I made sure we all rallied together to help. Not everybody wanted to. The training was so difficult that when some guys were not on the clock being graded, they did the bare minimum and found opportunities to rest and hide. The training was so difficult that when some guys were not on the clock being graded, they did the bare minimum and found opportunities to rest and hide. In my 69 days at Ranger School, I didn't coast for a single second. I was becoming a true leader. The whole point of Ranger School is to give every man a taste of what it takes to lead a high level team. The field exercises were like an operator's scavenger hunt blended with an endurance race. Over the course of 6 testing phases, we were evaluated on navigation, weapons, rope techniques, reconnaissance, and overall leadership. The field tests were notorious for their Spartan brutality and kept 3 separate phases of training. First, we were split into groups of 12 men and together spent 5 days and 4 nights in the foothills of Fort Benning phase. We were given very little food to eat, 1 or 2 MREs per day, and only a couple of hours sleep per night. As we raced the clock to navigate cross country terrain between stations where we would knock off a series of tasks to prove our proficiency in a particular skill. Leadership in the group rotated between men. Mountain phase was exponentially harder than Fort Benning. Now we were grouped into teams of 25 men to navigate the mountains in North Georgia, and Buddy Appalachia gets cold as fuck in winter time. I would read stories about black soldiers with sickle cell trait dying during mountain phase, and the army wanted me to wear special dog tags with a red casing to alert medics if something went wrong. But I was a leading man and didn't want my crew to think of me as some sickly child, so the red casing never quite found its way to my dog tags. In the mountains, we learned how to rappel and rock climb, among other mountaineering skills, and became proficient in ambush techniques and mountain patrol. To prove it, we went out on 2 separate 4 night field training exercises known as FTX. A storm blew in during our second FTX. 30 mile per hour winds howled with ice and snow. We didn't hold sleeping bags or warm clothes, and again we had very little food. All we could use to keep warm was a poncho liner and one another, which was an issue because the rancid odor in the air was our own. We had burned so many calories without proper nutrition, we had lost all our fat and were incinerating our own muscle mass for fuel. The putrid stink made our eyes water. It triggered the gag reflex. Visibility narrowed to a few feet. Guy wheezed, coughed, and jackhammered, their eyes wide with terror. I thought for sure someone was gonna die from front bite, hypothermia, or pneumonia that night. Whenever you stop to sleep during field tests, rest is brief and you are required to maintain security in 4 directions. But in the face of that storm, Bravo platoon buckled. These were generally very hard men with a ton of pride, but they were focused on survival above all else. I understood the impulse, and the instructors didn't mind because we were in weather emergency mode. But to me, that presented an opportunity to stand apart and lead by example. I looked at that winter storm as a platform to become uncommon among uncommon men. No matter who you are, life will present you similar opportunities where you can prove to be uncommon. There are people in all walks of life who relish those moments, and when I see them, I recognize them immediately because they are usually that motherfuckers who are all by himself. It's the suit who is still at the office at midnight while everyone else is in the bar, or the badass who hits the gym directly after coming off a 48-hour off. She is the woodland firefighter who, instead of hitting her bedroll, sharpens her chainsaw after working a fire for 24 hours. That mentality is there for all of us, man, woman, straight, gay, black, white, or purple fucking polka dot. All of us can be the person who flies all day and night only to arrive home to a filthy house, and instead of blaming family or roommates, cleans it up right then because they refuse to ignore duties undone. All over the world, amazing human beings like that exist. It doesn't take wearing a uniform. It is not about all the hard schools they graduated from, all their patches and medals. It's about wanting it like there is no tomorrow because there might not be. It's about thinking of everybody else before yourself and developing your own code of ethics that sets you apart from others. One of those ethics is the drive to turn every negative into a positive, and then when shit starts flying, being prepared to lead from the front. That's it for the day.